so anyway, it's a pleasure to meet all of you today. So very quickly, I think, you know, maybe some ground rules from a roundtable perspective, right? So we are hoping to get a lot of thought processes in, no kind of sales spiel or any such thing over here. So I want to comfort you that I will not be on your backs to say that, look, please hire us to do something. I'll come later, I suppose. But in any case, so very quickly, you know, from a topic perspective, I think we were to discuss saying how will this intervention of AI come into GCCs, and I also have the actual agenda in place. But I thought before we do that, maybe a quick 2-minute round introduction, because I think this is more like a conversation. I'm just a moderator. We'll switch up the introduction to also include two things. What is the one thing that you love about what's happening in AI? And what's the one thing that you fear the most? Okay? So maybe from your perspective, where you are from, what you'd like to get out of the session, and one thing that you are really looking forward to from AI, and one thing that you fear the most. Yeah? Thank you. So should we start with whoever is ready to go? Iti?
I mean, my name means the end, so ideally I should be ending.
No, that's okay. For all new beginnings, things should end. You know, so with that, I turn the mic over to you.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Iti. I head the Analytics and Insights Advisory Group for Landmark Group. For folks who don't know what is Landmark Group, if you've ever walked into a lifestyle or a home center in India or a Max, they're all owned by Landmark Group. My team looks at the entire retail value chain, not just for not just for India, but also all the countries in the Middle East. What is the one thing that excites me about all of this conversation around AI? I think for the first time, I don't need to go tell the business what I do. That's been really heartening, right? Because they also like, wo Gen AI, we want. So, I think that's been really useful. What's the one thing that scares me? Wo Gen AI, we want. That also scares me because, it's like one tool for everything is what everyone thinks, and it's not really the case. Yeah. So, and people forget that there is all the stuff around compute cost, etc., which no one factors in, but we are the ones who have to factor that in when we are, thinking about the solution. So yeah, that's about it from my side.
Hi, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, my name is Ravi Purohit. I head the ERP unit at BirlaSoft. BirlaSoft is an IT services company, part of CK Birla Group. Right, you might have heard of CK Birla Group. It's a big conglomerate in India. To specifically answer your question, what excites me about AI is it's kind of the third big wave of technology that has come from outside to the corporates, right? It has come from consumers of technology and not the thinkers like us, right, who promote some technology. So already it is adopted and it is being used. So to that extent, it is a fascinating thing because it is not somebody's brainchild. It is already accepted and now we have to do it. Nothing scares me. So in general, nothing scares me. So AI doesn't scare me.
Hi everyone, my name is Jay Kapoor. I come from this firm called State Street. It's a B2B financial services firm. And specifically for my role, I head the marketing division over there, including the analytics and research team. So what I find exciting about this whole phenomena about AI is, I think it just unlocks the potential to do so much more with data, uncovering insights and bringing value to the various processes, including customers' lives. It doesn't scare me, but what I feel apprehensive about is the whole hype cycle around AI. I mean, similar to probably what Iti was saying, that people think that now that AI is there, that's the be all of the world. If you don't have AI even in your name, you're meaningless in this world, which is not the case. Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Avinash Narasimha here. My introduction usually goes by how we pronounce our company name. Raghavendra has heard this a few times. So I work for Coke Industries. It's spelled as Koch, but really pronounced as Coke. And the one funny thing is we had to put the Kannada local language boards, right? So we were in a dilemma because the way you pronounce is really the Coca-Cola Coke. But when you put that in Kannada, and folks who know Kannada, it actually literally is a Coca-Cola pronunciation. So, but we still had to do it. So I lead the AI solutions team there, working largely in the supply chain, manufacturing, commercial. Right now, all the Gen AI buzz is playing in the midst of it. What I really like is just the evolution of this whole technology. It's exciting. Has made our life easier, like E.T. said. People are coming to us with ideas, which is what we like. But what I kind of spending some time is also educating people that it's not a magic wand, right? It's not going to just overnight come and solve all your problems. So there's a lot of literacy that we're spending time on. Thank you.
Hi, hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
My name is Shubhashish Manna, and I am partner in Grant Thornton, and I lead the data analytics practice there. So I think the AI and all its advancements surely kind of shows us the path that how much more we can do and how we can actually extract the value of data. So that's surely exciting. However, I think one development which I am really kind of very excited about is the federated learning which is coming, because that takes care of a little bit of data privacy issues that we all have, right, with respect to AI. And nothing scary, but I think we really need to see how the age AI comes out when you put AI into devices and IoT. That's really scary. If in one angle, I'm sure there will be checks and balances which will come in.
You're imagining Arnold Schwarzenegger coming and saying, okay, fine, I'm Terminator 1 kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Abhinav. I work for Cisco. I lead the technology practice for APJC, uh, specifically focusing on AI and automation in this geography, from an engineering perspective. I think good things which I'm seeing happening is that another round of transformation has kicked in. Another opportunity to transform customers, standardize them, adopt new technologies is a brilliant, brilliant stuff for all of us. I come from a service background, so I'm seeing this as a very large service opportunity happening in this particular geography. The 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 weaknesses which I'm seeing in the market is, there's so many customers who are looking at, somebody said the hype cycle which is coming up. So there are people who want the AI adopted within their organization. However, I think the legacy, the culture, the knowledge, I think all of that is very missing, and the disparate systems within that organization. So giving us multiple challenges on how to again, take up that, again define a blueprint, again define a transformation charter for them, is something which I'm seeing challenging. I'm not scared of that, but yeah, it's going to be a revenue opportunity for us, but yeah, the customers are so many and so disparate, CSAT management is going to be very, very difficult for us. That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhinav. Would you like to go next?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Lakshmana, and I'm part of Epsilon. Just a bit of an introduction about Epsilon. We are in the space of marketing and loyalty. That's the only thing that we do. We're not into supply chain or inventory management and things like that. We are in the business of connecting consumers to brands, right? And the way that we do that is using proprietary data that we have got access to. And there are tech platforms, customer data platforms, CDPs, and loyalty that we sell to our clients. And we also implement these platforms for our clients. And I don't do any of that. What I do is I run a professional services organization that's delivering value to the clients on their data and tech investments, right? So we do have a team of 200 plus data scientists who are working on embedding analytics into our products, both on the MarTech side and AdTech side. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Lakshmi.
Hi, my name is Jagmeet and I take care of analytics platform at NatWest. So the idea, what's so exciting now is the fact that we are becoming frictionless when we talk to our customers. So think about the value chain that was there. So sales was selling something to customers, then operations was serving in some other way, and technology was delivering some other way. So technology looked static to operations, and operations looked static to sales. So this value chain was, there was a big gap there. And with the advent of AI, that gap is becoming less. It is becoming much more frictionless. You can get to understand the customer far more quicker than you thought the turnaround time was. The one thing that I fear is the fact that it may take us some time to adopt the practices. So being from a regulated industry, I don't want to be in front of a regulator for the wrong cause. So that's one thing that I always fear, that not to be in front of regulator for the wrong cause from an AI perspective.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Thanks, Jet.
Hi, my name is Soumya Datta and I'm from London Stock Exchange Group. Just an introduction of London Stock Exchange Group. I mean, all of us have heard about it, but it was not there in India till 2021. And then 2021, it acquired a large part of Thomson Reuters. A private equity player, Blackstone, exited and London Stock Exchange acquired. So from 6,000 employee, we are now 25,000 employee and we have 2 offices in Bangalore. I take care of cloud and infra, so probably I'm the only one here kind of misfit as far as AI is concerned because I take care of infra, but I'm not concerned about AI. I've seen, like, I think Ravi, you said that you have seen 3 different transformations in last 20 years. I've seen as well. Of course, in the infra side, we'll talk about it, how it's going to impact GCC. As I think Jagmeet said, and compliance and regulation is one area where I'm scared of. We are very heavy on compliance and regulation. Even a small approval to do a DevOps pipeline, it takes a long time for us. So we are behind, but we are catching up.
Thank you. Thanks, Soumya.
Hi, I'm Dhirender Singh. I'm part of Pernod Ricard. If you guys know Pernod Ricard. Pernod Ricard is a very large alcoholic, drinks company, and I lead the data and analytics for Asia, and also I lead globally the different engineering chapters, which means the delivery here for Asia region. So you imagine India, China, and 13, 14 different affiliates within Asia, and of course I'm in the global engineering chapters. So what I feel the benefit of AI, what I've seen also is this unlocking of this self-service, right? Being in the technology IT organization, I could see IT being a bottleneck earlier a lot. Now this with the AI, and I'm not talking only about Gen AI, I'm talking AI in general. This unlocking the consumers or the information seekers within the organization and also outside, being consuming information and utilizing applications much more smoothly. So that's a benefit I see. In terms of the downside, or rather the thing that scares me, being a data professional, we all keep on saying this single source of truth and making sure your data governance is up and tight, right? So that's what scares me, and I see multiple within the organization, multiple functions speaking different numbers because their underlying data is not really governed well. And that's, I think, that's what we are really working on in Pernod Ricard, to make sure that we have centralized hubs as the single point of truth or single source of truth.
Thank you. Thanks.
My name is Ravi, and I lead fraud analytics and Gen AI initiatives at HSBC. Thing which I like about Gen AI is maybe information, the way we can consume it, the best way it can summarize things for you, and maybe from scores of documents you can find information very easily, right? And it can be accurate as well. Thing which I worry about, I would choose the answer which Iti mentioned about AI being solution for everything. It need not be. But let me take an example from fraud vertical, given I'm very closely associated with that. Deepfakes. That's been a big worry because that impacts, synthetic identity thefts. leads to a lot of nuances in the overall banking sector. So, yeah.
Thank you, Ravi.
Hello, my name is Raghavendra Prasad Manikrishna. I work with JP Morgan. I oversee consumer banking, all branches and ATM networks for JP. From interesting part about AI is being a data and AI professional. Earlier I had to go sell solutions. I had to sell an idea. With the advent of Gen AI, idea is already sold. It's all about how do you ensure the idea is the right one is the only thing that I'm currently looking at. Maybe on the hindsight, I wouldn't say I'm scared of it, but I've been a controls and risk professional all throughout. So I'm only thinking of the ways that something could go wrong. What are some of the unknowns we have out there that we haven't factored in whenever we get into any new tool or technology as such. So that's the only thing. Having those known unknowns already factored in so that you are in a safe place coming from a financial services industry. I think that's the only one which I would say it scares me. Like, I would be wary about it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Varun Saxena. I'm from Anerock Property Consultants. For people who don't know Anerock is one of India's largest real estate advisory firms. About 5% of homes sold in India are sold through Anerock in some form. I lead the AIML analytics and the pre-sales function at Anerock. What I love about AI, if I may, or what excites me, it is the new pieces which are getting added which can very well integrate with our existing pieces. So we've seen a lot of value in our predictive AI merging with generative AI, and the results have been phenomenal. So rather than looking at each of these technologies or use cases separately, what I'm not sure about is actually it's very difficult to plan for the future.
Right.
That's
So
something.
it's too dynamic.
Yeah. So if you would ask me what would be my next year plan, 10 years ago while I was a marketeer, I would know where I have to go. Today possibly I'm not so sure.
Right. Fantastic. So I think we have done our round of intros. So I thought it would be great to maybe look at certain topics. I think we did circulate an agenda earlier, but I thought, looking at maybe the time at where we are, we have about an hour. We have a choice of either taking a couple of topics and really going deep into them. So I thought I will do a quick kind of maybe a vote to see what will interest you the most, right? So we had one topic which is mostly like, okay, what do you think will change in a GCC? So for example, I do find that maybe not, I'm sure each of us have certain service-oriented functions. Definitely, the way we are providing service could change. Maybe the way we actually deliver could change. So, from my perspective, I was thinking that one of the things we could say is what will change, and therefore, what perhaps could be the change from a perspective of people or, process or any kind of, associated costs. So that could be one topic. The other one, of course, is looking at the ROI for Gen AI, right? Many of our companies are also, into sustainability and ESG and so on. Then if you look at the compute power, you look at, how do you actually cost Gen AI, and how will you actually look at value perception, because, do you want to use it for maybe certain types of tasks where multiple users are there, or do you want to restrict, and whether is there a difference between where you'll use Gen AI versus AI. And if you look at, artificial general intelligence is nowhere in the spectrum. So we are more talking about narrow intelligence, maybe higher level of prediction, maybe looking at certain things of maybe customer upselling, maybe different sorts of, experiences from a customer side, or, but what do we want to actually look at, and how will we frame a return on investment? And if we were to cost, let's say, Gen AI, how will you actually do that? What will be the components of that? So maybe, share some best practices around on how each of us are doing it. And of course, in cost comes a big kind of component, Soumya, of the infra itself, right? Like how are you negotiating with vendors? Is it on token? Is it Microsoft Copilot, what are we actually doing, and so on. So that could be one chunk. And of course, the other big chunk for me is the whole upskilling piece, right? So if, for example, we have a specific org structure now, and like you guys rightly mentioned, I think there's a lot of clamor for using Gen AI. How will you actually then rephrase some of the, maybe the jobs, or, you know, now nobody uses libraries and they do Google search. I'm thinking that maybe after Gen AI, sometime maybe Google search may also become irrelevant, right? Because you may, at least in an organization construct, you may have much better ways of assimilating and producing information. So then how would you actually train people? What will they do differently? Or, you know, that could be another topic. So we can maybe pick 2 of the topics out of the 3, if that's okay with you all. So I thought I'll take a quick vote. So, you know, how many of you for what will change in GCC?
Yeah, I'm. Yeah. GCC impact.
Okay, GCC impact. Okay, GCC impact. And how many of you for ROI? Okay, and how many of you for people?
Yep.
Okay, so it's okay, tough tide between ROI and people. So let's maybe do 20 minutes each. Is that fair? Okay, okay, great. So my job here is to actually just, you know, put some thoughts in front of you, so that maybe it will help you to look at how you'll frame your, you know, maybe construct of thinking for our collective good, right? So let's first look at how will it impact GCC. Okay, so if you start at the top, the target operating model is what actually drove the GCC, right? So there are structures that people have created, and they said that, look, here are tasks which are either engineering tasks, or maybe processes, or support processes, or enablers, or very many words like that. But essentially what we are doing is we are having an internal business service organization which is serving somebody, and that has a certain bunch of set of activities. Maybe, you know, some things to do with front end or front office, as I may call it, similar to banks. Then you have middle office, and then you have back office, right? If you look at Gen AI and you're saying, okay, look, where are use cases in, let's say, back office? I'm not sure that so many people are going first and jumping at back office. At least the way we are seeing it, we are seeing more people change from front office. And therefore, you know, if you have engineering teams who are serving front office, how do you actually then collaborate? Because the biggest difference in AI, like, you know, somebody rightly pointed out, is there is frictionless. The word he used was frictionless, because, you know, you need to make agile teams of having 3 or 4 skills and end to end for you to make sense to deploy something in AI. Because you cannot have only a structure of, let's say, only the technologists, only the business analysts, only the front-end customers. Now, if you traditionally look at all organizations, they are verticalized, right? So the most important change, according to me, that will happen to GCC is you'll become a horizontal organization. The more you actually switch up from being a vertical organization to having teams in place horizontally, which means to say you have to actually envisage the WIFM of why either the enabler or the process exists, and then say that, okay, how will I actually make teams in such a way that this vertical phenomena goes away, and you're actually looking at a end-to-end phenomena. Now you can say that many of these things are achieved by Agile, right? The trick is not to be fragile, right? Like, you can be Agile, but we have to be careful not to be so Agile that, you know, we are constantly changing around things. So if you look at it, the strategy is one at the top, and typically what happens with strategy when people decide as a management, they then push it downward, right? Whereas in AI, the most of the changes will actually happen from a lower level. So you will need to actually look at saying, how will I make teams actually go forward from a lower level and adopt AI as well? So, you know, at least that's what I'm thinking here from a operating model construct of, let's say, a GCC, right? So maybe we can go around the room to see whether, what are some of the projects or maybe challenges. So maybe we should have something which is like, let's say, what is something that you would have done earlier in a project which is probably different in an AI project, and perhaps what are some of the learnings and what potentially, you know, are some of your thinking in that area. Is that okay? Because I'm coming from the construct that potentially you will need to change the way that you team, and therefore maybe originally if you had structures where, let's say you have, you know, maybe the loyalty program, you have maybe somebody front-ending something, you then have people actually creating something in the back end and servicing them. You now cannot have that gap between who's servicing the client and what actually they are building. Because, you know, the more the gap is, the more likely you're probably away from what you're going to predict, whether using AI or even using Gen AI, right? So is that fair? Any comments, any vehement opposition?
Is it more about how do we sustain a GCC and bring it from a capability maturity model 1.0 to 4.0 using Gen AI and all? I mean, I've seen so many GCC were cannibalized in last 10 years, right? So how do we kind of stay ahead of the curve using Gen AI? Is that?
Yeah, so what I'm simply saying, Soumya, sorry, is that if, for example, the GCC exists because of, let's say, a customer, whether internal or external, you have to actually evaluate what is changing in the life of that customer for you to actually follow. You can't put the cart before the horse. It has to follow the horse. Unless, you know, you are in a maturity stage where, you know, you're actually driving things. I mean, if I'm being absolutely honest in this room, I think while many of us actually may have a seat at the global table, we are still enablers. We are not the people driving the front end change. And therefore, you know, to fall, to probably fall out of sync. Otherwise, what can happen is that you have a fantastic back end process which costs very high thing, but may not make much of value to the front end.
Right, Kalpana. So I think as an impact on the GCC, so there are 2-3 things here, right? One is that the requirement is changing to whom we are servicing, right? Because of the advancements in the technology. Now you cater to that by different kind of interventions. One of the intervention is that how do you actually modify your org structure to support that, right? That is an impact that we are perhaps going through right now, or we'll see in the near future. One is that, see, previously it used to be a region first model or a product first model in your org design. Today, perhaps very rapidly, we are changing into a competency first model. So you will see that most of the places you will have chapters of specialized skills which are being developed. And as Agile Pod, people are coming, right, bringing those expertise in order to serve a use case. Now that use case can be for a region, can be for a product. But that's how it is changing.
Correct, but in case your GCC is not arranged, let's say, by competency or pod or whatever be the case, for you to assemble the skill for a horizontal team itself can take time.
Correct.
That's all what I'm saying.
So that waterfall to that agile is the change that we'll see as we go forward. And I think that element of horizontal, because it's a middle path, because you need a little bit of that horizontal model also, because as chapters you need to train, you need to upskill, you need to do research and development, right? So that has to be done in the chapters. So it will be a kind of mixed path, but your delivery will happen through agile kind of use cases where you bring in and assimilate the team from different skill sets.
Right, but all what I'm just saying is, suppose if, for example, presently maybe somebody who's coding in your GCC is, you have like, let's say 400 people who are coding, right? And you then say that, look, I'm actually going to put whether, I don't know, whether Claude or Anthropic or whatever, you know, like whichever is the one that is your choice of, you know, maybe coding assistance, whether even just AWS, whichever one, that's not going to remain the same. And therefore, you know, the system surrounding that. So imagine a broken system where maybe the coder actually picks up some, you know, maybe certain kinds of requirements and then It's not, it's lot of human driven interaction which finally brings the project to a close. And then people recognize that, look, you don't need that many coders. You actually then need to have a very higher order level coder who can make the machine work. Whereas our system is rigged, having a lot more of more people, because that is lower cost. So you see, there could be a dysfunction. That's what I'm trying to say.
In fact, I'll put it this way. Now, what is happening is, particularly at NatWest, what we have done is that we are trying to form a team which is called DigiOps. Why I keep on coming back to friction is because that's the aim of that team. Saying that what would future fit operations look like? Let's start, forget coding once, let's start at what is future fit operations looks like at GCC. Because that is even more like 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 people that are deployed in GCC to take care of that. And we figured out that traditional operations is particularly a place where they look at SLAs, and the traditional operations is a place where they will look at cost, labor arbitrage and other things, and the tools that they will use is macros. They will use some sort of shared services. They will increase the capacity if there is a more regulatory pressure, other things. And we said, what would be future fit operations look like? Forget everything, we have to define a target operating model. And we said that our future fit operations would be much more experience focused. So it would be much more customer as well as colleague experience focused. And SLAs are worst form of that experience. So if you think about SLAs, Amazon has an SLA of 3 days. So it gives you delivery in 3 days, and they may be at 99% accuracy with their 3 days experience. But what happens is somebody comes along the market, Amazon itself comes along in the market and say Amazon Prime. So 1 day experience that they give. And then Blinkit comes along and says 10 minutes. So you will always have to chase the experience. The operations will have to move away from the SLAs that are there. And in order to do that, what would be the tools that would be required or the skills that would be required? We'll have to figure those out. AI is one component of it, but process mining is a bigger component of it, because we will never have money to solve for the entire world problem. So we will always have to be surgical in our approach in what problem we are solving. So let's say if it is customer onboarding, which was a problem that was to be solved, the only problem that we solved in the entire value chain was SIC predictor. SIC predictor today is the biggest problem in banks, because once you get that wrong, your all budgeting, planning, everything goes for a toss. So first being process mining, become surgical in operations, use AI/ML for decision making, and then probably have robotics also into your thing, because now you have an opportunity to convert unstructured information to structured information and make your decisions on that. So that is how we are envisioning that how our GCCs would evolve, and how we will focus on these future skills to have a target operating model which is experience based rather than the SLAs and other matrices we had earlier.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, sorry. Please go ahead. So I think from a GCC perspective, I see multiple aspects of capability, coming under pressure because of this new lead which we are getting in the market. Okay, people, processes, tools, finance, partner ecosystem, security compliance, marketing, sales. There's everybody who's coming under pressure. How are they going to deal with this new stuff? When I'm talking to the leaders in most of these opportunities who are looking to adopt AI in their ecosystem, the leadership is very clear. How can you increase my cost of acquiring new business, new opportunities? How are you seeing my cost to get optimized? How are you seeing my productivity to improve? How can I remove the inefficiencies from the system? These are the kind of punchlines which we are getting from the customer, the leadership community, the senior most layer. And defining an ROI model around that is again very, very challenging. So consulting advisory is getting challenged because the ROI model for this kind of has not been defined in the market. That's the first thing which we are seeing. The second thing is when we are getting an opportunity based on a process or based on a promise given to a customer that we'll do something for you. The lead times for this experimentation is quite substantial. You know, some of the cases I'm seeing a lead time of about 1.5 years to see if we can give the kind of ROI which the customer is expecting. Which means that there may not be a good substantial business for a service provider like us during that 1.5. The POCs are not getting paid for. The experimentations, the investments on experimentations is not showing up. You know, everybody wants it, but I think these pressure points are not coming together on how we are planning to resolve them. That's what GCC is kind of, you know, going to get exposed to. That's my, you know, high level. I can go on and on this because we're doing these opportunities. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
I think some of the things that I want to say is just in line or an extension of what he just said, but just going back to the original question, what is changing in GCCs? I think one of the important aspects in GCC's transformation is just getting accelerated. Over the last few years, we are anyways talking about and being very conscious about not just playing the cost arbitrage or the low cost game. And advent of AI or Gen AI is only accelerating that expectation for the right reasons. That yeah, now you know, we're not just talking about reducing costs, but we are also talking about using these technologies to our advantage to generate meaningful outcomes. I think that is at a very high level the biggest you know, shot in the arm for GCCs. Having said that, I think responding to some of the you know, operating model scenarios that you just talked about, I feel that it's never a, you know, a cookie cutter approach in terms of, you know, everywhere everything will work in a similar fashion. It definitely has to be a hybrid approach and maybe changing by the industry. For example, in financial industries or even healthcare for that matter, where the regulatory oversight is a lot more, I think a hybrid approach of, you know, having these agile teams, but then also having, you know, to your point, a centralized team like a DigiOps, which kind of overlays the governance model or the risk management model is very important. Otherwise, yeah, we can get, with agility, we can get the products right, but are they all talking the same standards? Are they talking the same? We'll create other kind of silos by, you know, by solving one problem, we'll create another problem. So, would wrap up my point by saying that basically it is, you know, a mix of one, expectations, which in the sense that, you know, what is it that we want from Gen AI? What problem is worth solving from Gen AI versus trying to fit Gen AI everywhere? I think that's the biggest challenge, going back to my previous point on the concern also. We have to be very razor sharp of where it makes sense from a cost perspective, from a time perspective, and things that can be solved without it, let it be. Don't try to, you know, find a nail because you have a hammer. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is from a culture perspective. While we talk about, and I think that's the next topic also, which we'll spend some time on, about the talent, but I think it's interlinked here. When we talk about GCCs and the transformation, and we cannot talk about it without talking about people and the talent and the training and everything. But I think that also has to be a tops down and bottoms up approach. Even the leaders needs to be trained about the realities of AI, what it is not, so that the strategic mandates that come to GCCs, either locally or globally, are well aligned to what it can actually do. So that's also a very important.
And learning becomes a very important criteria.
Yes.
And I think over a period of time, dare I say that, you know, that some of us are quite like fairly like, when did you learn last? You ask somebody. I'm sure like if each of us close our eyes, we know when we learned anything last. Serious amount of learning as a human.
Right. Yeah. So I think that learning is also a very important part of the culture, which I was trying to bring.
Right.
That the culture has to be set right.
Right. Thank you. Thanks. Yes.
Yeah, when we are asking this question of you know, with the advent of AI, what is changing in GCC? I don't think GCC is in its own silo. I think whatever changing in the parent or the global organization is also impacting GCC meaningfully, I would think. Maybe like you alluded to, I think you made an interesting point, GCCs are probably over-indexed. This is not a statement on all GCCs, but most GCCs are probably
over-indexed on the junior, mid-level talent. A lot of people do the regular and mundane work, and maybe I think maybe we should take a look at it in terms of the impact of this on the global organization. So how is this going to impact GCCs which are over-indexed on the junior talent? One of the things that I will talk about is, and I represent professional services, which is consulting and analytics that we provide to our clients. One of the things that we've been on a journey, I don't think it is done yet. One of the things that we've been on a journey even before Gen AI has become a buzzword was how do we disrupt ourselves? So for example, if you've been part of consulting world, the way that you charge the client is time and material, right? So based on the seniority of the people, and the cost of the talent is going up, your air travel, all of that is going up. So the clients, I don't think clients were getting a good deal in this engagement because your rate per hour is only going to go up, right? Of course, you justify it by just saying, here is the value that I delivered, etc., right? But it is only going up. So why is that a good thing for the client? Like, why should the rate per hour that they pay to the top talent for consulting should go up, right? So we asked ourselves that question, and we invested heavily in building some tools. Of course, it had some predictive AI in it, like automation in it, standardization in it, and said that, okay, instead of charging clients 100 hours to do this work, why can't I charge the client 50 hours and I can use this tool to do more work for them, right? And then now with Gen AI, we are even bringing this close to the clients. Self-serve is a word that's been used. Why do you need an analyst sitting in India to do some audience selection for a client's marketing campaign? Of course, we have done that. That was a step in the right direction. But why can't I make this tool available to the client itself for an additional fee, right? Why should they need to depend on an offshore-based marketing analyst to run a audience selection for a campaign, right?
Right.
So make it available so that they can use some sort of a query interface or a chat GPT kind of an interface.
That's a great point you raise, because if you then look at things like compliance structures, chargeback mechanisms, maybe presently you're actually doing a lot of chargeback mechanism on people.
Yeah.
But imagine, like, maybe you need a Soumya in your team to say, okay, how much will the infrastructure chargeback be? And then you're going to package literally something like either a service or a platform, which is again a different version of a GCC, right? Because presently, many of the stalwarts actually say, look, I run a 50,000 shop, I run a 20,000 people shop. It'll no longer become a number of people shop.
Yeah, we don't need that many people now, right?
Yeah.
So it is at the hands of the clients.
So then that begs a question, then what will happen to all the people, right?
Lakshman, can I add one question to the scenario which you reflected? We actually gave a self-service tool based on certain LLM models to one of our largest telecom services. And we are once we built it and once we kind of matured it, we gave it to the customer. And there were, let's say 15 different customers in the geography using that. The next level of maturity or the next level of challenge which was thrown back to us is, how are we going to manage this? Each of these customers needs specific customization around this particular platform.
Yes.
A platform which we had given as a standard to all these. So now the next level of challenge which is coming in is, how do we maintain the standardization across these multiple customers for these modules?
Yep.
Right. So then you're moving into whether, are you serving for convenience or you're serving for customization? Because then that brings a very important thing on willingness to pay and cost to serve. So if you want a Louis Vuitton bag which is handmade, then you can customize to the nth extent, but you have to pay for that. So then again, go back to our GCC world. Typically we do standardized service. Even if you have a service catalog, the catalog is standardized. If you want to input elements of, let's say, like how you have this ice cream, right? That cream stone read. What you then need to do is, like, you need to literally split every item in your menu card and say, look, today you want hot chocolate fudge with, AI sprinkled on top, here is that. Versus maybe here is a Gen AI chatbot which will help you now onboard everybody, and that is completely differently charged. So your challenge would also come from cost tracking, cost management, and chargeback. Therefore, you know, like how will you then set up systems? Because presently we work on a budget system, right? Yeah.
See, generally the, you know, organizations or structure, strategy, they are designed towards an opportunity in the market, or the outcome that is expected, or the problem that is defined. Right? That's general. Now, if you were to look at from my perspective how GCCs would change is, so your opportunities and outcomes are becoming slightly more complicated than earlier for any department, for any project, for any company, because you know the maturities in industries are varied, right? So there's an expectation that you should, from a retail domain or whatever domain that company is in, you should know the supply chain and you should know that technology, right? It is kind of I mean,
like
you can do
so
it,
you have competency,
right? So since I've been in IT service and product world together, I generally learn things, right? And what I figured is, you know, you asked that question, right? So I developed my own mobile app. I did Python training myself. I know what it is. So my experience kind of teaches me what to ask, and learning helps me figure out that these all things can be answered, right? So what I've realized is that most of the GCs will most likely switch towards a metrics based structured focus on the outcome, right? So you will not have, you know, departments only. You will probably have 3 departments: industry department or a product department, that's a vertical, and a process which is supply chain or HR or marketing and so on.
Very interesting.
And third will be technology, and it will be project driven, and every unit will have some sort of an outcome to specialize, but to solve the problem all the 3 will come together, right? The challenge with AI, and it's also an opportunity, is by pushing the people to learn what is the art of possible from technology, you will actually also figure out potential problems that are not yet, and convert them into an opportunity, right? So that's an advantage of that structure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Ravi. Any other comments?
Yes, no, I'll just add a couple of points, right? I think if we look at the current number of GCCs, it's around 1580, 1600 as per the last month's data. I was looking at ANS, I published it. I think you mentioned that from Bangalore, from India, we do not have many CIOs or CTOs who has that seat in the table. But I think it's also increasing. I mean, right now we are probably 15 plus, right? It's
but I'm saying
right.
it is increasing,
right.
But it's not like we are in a driver's seat
Absolutely.
yet.
Absolutely.
Right? So.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that when I look at these 1500 odd GCCs, most of them, at least pre-2016, the GCCs came to Bangalore or India. They came largely for cost arbitrage, right? Yes. So to start with, I think Jay, you mentioned, right? The needle has moved from cost arbitrage to, you know, how do we add value? So in one of my previous company, what we used to do, I think you mentioned about upskilling as another topic. So I'll kind of mix it because both are related. So even in infra, right, when I used to manage infra ops and cloud ops, so we used to create pods. I think you mentioned pods, right? So wherein we used to try, you know, upskilling our guys on the business capability side. So if my infra is touching business, let's say SAP, how do I ensure that my guys at least know what are the endpoints, how supply chain and procurement or even a logistics is getting affected by a particular Unix server? How do I map those critical services with ServiceNow CIS? And when there is a, let's say, since I'm from operation, I'll talk about priority 1 incidents and all. There, I see that, you know, most of our guys, when they join that, they don't talk that language what business understands. So how do we, you know, kind of bring that is something we have done in my previous organization. And I think that is what helped us. And the second point is, I've seen that some of the GCCs here in Bangalore, right, they don't work with each other, right? I think GenAI will kind of, you know, increase that collaboration between different organizations, number one. Number two, I've seen that the manufacturing company has established a captive center here in Bangalore, and they have their own business running in India, and both of them don't talk to each other. So you know, so that's one problem I have seen, right? And I think we'll talk about that a little more on that.
Sure, Sure,
So-
thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, probably just to add in another quick aspect is the maturity of the GCCs also, right? So how long have you been in the game?
Yeah.
So your target operating model predominantly depends on it. How mature are you? What kind of roles are being driven out of the GCC? What kind of value are you trying to add? I know all the GCCs start off as a cost play, but slowly they move towards your maturity curve of a value play. So that's why your cost of operating a GCC also goes on higher as and when your maturity goes on increasing. That's one important aspect that we have to factor in, like what kind of work is being delivered, how is it being delivered, and who is delivering it also, and what value are you adding to your parent organization. I think that's one key aspect apart from all the technologies and all those things that we're trying to do.
Of course, of course.
Maybe a couple of points quickly. Uh, we thought as an organization, we believed AI is central to everything we do. Like we give a lot of importance to our culture. We think in terms of principles and mental models. So first thing they did is that they came up with a principle-based AI framework. And that's because there was a lot of unease in the system. Will I lose my job, especially the operations groups or the non-tech groups? Hey, will AI take my job away? So they had to address that. So they came out very boldly and said it's going to augment human intelligence, machine intelligence, and humans will work together. That's one statement that was made. And what will really change is anything that can be automated will be automated very soon. And your AI workflows will start to take shape very, very fast. It can be through some of the tools that we use, your ServiceNow, Salesforce, everything, or it could be custom built AI workflows. So when all this is done, whenever in the next 2-3 years or maybe longer, then the question comes, hey, do we need so many people to really do this? And likewise, we may still need it, but their roles and responsibilities also change, and they start to take up broader, elevated roles in the organization. That's some of the changes I see coming.
Right, thank you. Iti, do you have anything to say?
I actually wanted to just, second what Raghav was saying, because when I kind of hear everything, I think one of the things that I'm very happy to say is that most of the work that's happening within our org, it's very clearly driven, business outcome driven, right? We are doing inventory management and we have clear business KPIs, right? These are the KPIs that we need to, adhere to or stick to. We are doing customer value management. There is a target that has been set for the group. We are doing customer insights. There is a target that's been set for the group. And this is a target that the board signs off on. So there is no, I think where Raghav was saying, yes, we do start off these centers as, cost centers, but I can see that our groups become one of the value drivers within the organization. We do have a seat at the table. What's really worked for us is another thing that you mentioned. We actually have these teams which are like, inventory specific or merchandising specific. We only talk business numbers and business language, right? I mean, if you were to hear our team, they would say, the cover is like this, and this has happened because late season launch, blah, blah, blah. And they're talking very similar to how a business person would also talk. We also have this concept of business relationship managers who actually sit with the business. I've spoken about this in the past with Raghav as well, who sit with the business and really, really understand the process. So it's easy for us to even uncover. I think, for us, the more we uncover, what we're realizing is we don't even have enough people to solve so many problems, right? Because there are quite a lot of business problems. I think one of the key things that we're also recognizing as a capability center for the group is that it's not just us who is discovering AI. All our competitors are discovering AI. Everybody is plugging it in. Everybody is getting smarter. So how do I make my group smarter with AI, right? There are startups who are building very cool solutions. In fact, just for one point specific solution, there is a startup that will exist and, just do that day in and day out. So they sorted their stuff out. So how do you bring in some of those partnerships within our group so that, we can also become a force enabler or a force, someone who actually helps the group succeed, because we are seeing the market's changing super rapidly. So I'm in retail, FYI, so retail changes like super rapidly. There is competition coming in every day in different forms. So how are you kind of thinking about that? And Hopefully, I think when you're saying how does GCC's role change, I just go back to GCC's actually going to become a capability driver and not just tech capability, right? I want to clarify that. It's not just about tech. I think the days are gone where we just had coders. We are becoming thinkers, and thinkers, I mean business thinkers. How can we actually change the way the business is functioning?
Sure. I maybe, what I meant was that many of our models are based on, let's say, a particular pyramid. And if you have a specific knowledge and maybe a experience, sometimes actually changing that is also very difficult. And therefore, like if you look at maybe where can Gen AI maximum produce, let's say, outcomes, right? I'm sure many of you will be following Gary Marcus. He says that, look, all the youngest people will become 40% better, right? So what happens to the people who actually then taught Gen AI? And then how will you actually then reward those guys? Because you don't need that many then people. So if you were to just go 2 steps forward and then think that, okay, how will my org structure change? Whether it is front end, whether it's GCC, wherever you are creating value, things will still change. It's not going to remain the same as the current state, even if you throw maybe multiple problems at it. So my point was really that you need to have some portions of your operating model fluid in a way that you can actually accommodate that change. Because if you rig it to the nth level of optimized kind of a structure, you won't be able to adopt a new structure fast.
Yeah, that's where the business outcome orientation helps.
Right.
Because if at the end of the day, you're solving for a business outcome, a business KPI, right? Like, I want to reduce my inventory holding cost. Now, this is a business KPI. For a business, it matters. Inventory holding cost, because it has got such a big impact on your P&L. So if you are thinking from that perspective, or if you're saying, I want to increase my customer satisfaction score, I know you mentioned I want to increase my CSAT by X points or whatever, then, everything internally, whatever you're doing, and you mentioned that very well, that you could have we actually have those setups, product, infra, platform, analytics advisory, all of us come together to just impact that one particular KPI.
Right.
And of course, there are multiple business KPIs, but there'll be a set of people who will just work on impacting that KPI.
Maybe I'll summarize if anyone else has any points. Yes.
I'll make one.
Yes.
Very quick one. So, we don't use this vocabulary per se GCC, but we are a team which is serving the business. So, and this vocabulary also of business that we have kind of gotten rid of, right? How and why is it's important? The point around the target operating model changing, right? The function, we start calling them functions, and everybody is a stakeholder. So we are like a bunch of engineers, data scientists, BI analysts, and this pod making, right? Or the product owners, right? Dealing directly and making the, ensuring that the priorities are defined, right? Along with the function, the ones who are stakeholders. So I'll take one very specific example of product. How does this product kind of, evolve in this setup? And this is like from the recent experience. I've set up capabilities in the past with AB InBev, brought in tons of capabilities around the globe to Bangalore. But with Pernod Ricard, that I've seen this maturing and then AI being used, but in pockets. Like it's not like just AI solution for everything, right? It's used in specific areas, right?
Of course.
So we have a product, when you work, as I said, right, self-service becoming more and more pertinent, and the functional users becoming more and more aware of the outside world, because they are also are in the world. And this, the user stories, when we talk about, and them bringing that to us, we talk about now, okay, this particular use case is going to be solved by the AI, or an AI solution we need to have, or I need to kind of build a model around it. So that is more of the product building. Now underneath there are tons of engineers and scientists working. right? So one is, of course, a capability that needs to be built, but those engineers and scientists also, and this in the metrics organization, because I also lead the chapters in the organization, I know them using also the AI components to make themselves more efficient.
Of course.
So I think it's working in both sides. It's working on the side of where the product is being developed, or the features or the capabilities of the product are being kind of discussed, and them getting into the backlog of product development. And at the same time, the engineers and the scientists and the web developers also becoming smart because of these AI features available.
Right.
Them using the potential,
Right.
and that's where the entire what do you call, the time to market for a feature, right? Your backlog reducing faster. That becomes kind of more and more that we see in happening now.
Right. That's a great point. So if there is not any other points, then I would like to just quickly summarize. So I think we talked about how perhaps business context is absolutely necessary. So maybe if we go back and introspect in our own worlds, how many people have business context, and therefore what will be the intervention of AI on business context. I think that's a brilliant point, from a point perspective, to say that, look, how much do I know, what am I doing, and therefore, how will things change and how quickly can I adapt. I think the other one was on the service delivery. So one is, what is business wanting and how are they changing? The other one is, how am I serving them, and can I use AI in that aspect? So essentially, if you look at it, the age-old strategic kind of intent, it is, where am I impacting customer willingness to pay, and where am I impacting my cost to serve? And therefore, then you can actually adjust your thinking around perhaps even ROI basis that. Because, if you're serving a customer, then the return on investment becomes slightly easier to maybe look at. If you're working on internal costs and then actually benchmarking against that, baseline of the earlier costs will become extraordinarily important, and how you're arriving at those constituents will also become important. So we have about another 30 minutes. So what's the mood like? Useful so far? Any comments? Anything that you want to speed it up, slow down? All okay? Okay, great. So let's move to the next topic, right? So, and I think we had a tie between both people and ROI. So what I'm going to do is do people first, if people don't mind, and then go to ROI. Maybe we set ourselves a 15-minute on people and then a 15-minute on ROI. Does that sound like a plan? Okay. Who wants to pick people first? I'm not going to pick. I would like to invite somebody who's not talked. Yes, please.
Sure. So, from a people perspective, something which we are trying to imbibe within our organization is not just the tech side, but gradually have every employee embrace AI. It at times is, there is resistance, obviously. So we don't always say it's AI also. It's subtly done through systems, through various nudges. But that is how we are trying to, like he mentioned in the a great point in his last sentence, that it's not just the tech team which is taking the benefit, it's everyone. So the marketing team is using ChatGPT for creatives, for copy. Within our organization, number of copywriters has gone down actually. So everyone's wanting to do it. No one wants to be left behind. So they are good to start off with, and then you kind of have a regular, I would say, a set of programs where everyone is involved. So every person within our tech team who's not even related to, who's a pure developer, coder, we have about 200 tech team members. Everyone is essentially attached to one AI project.
Okay.
So that one, they feel they are learning something new, they are contributing in the AI space, their stickiness with the organization stays, and this is apart from the regular work which they do. So that's helped all of us understand or keep them together, get a lot more ideas. Uh, in each project, we also have cross-functional business teams in the project. Apart from tech, AI, analytics, that will be there, but there will be a business leader, I would say, involved, so that that connect in the requirement is there. Otherwise, we discussed this in the last conversation also, that you really have a gap. It's real. You see that gap on what is the business expectation versus what's the output which comes in. So that's another space we are trying to bridge the gap. End of the day, focus is on revenues, on ROI. So then there's also a healthy competition between the groups on how much you are.
A better ROI. Okay, okay. That's
That's
interesting.
how we are
You've gamified the system to provide better ROI. Okay.
So
That's
one thing we are doing right now is I'm driving an initiative called AI Awareness and Adoption. So we've got a tech group and a non-tech group. The intent to do it is at least people should know what is AI, how it can change what I do. Just basic information also. People don't know, especially the finance and HR back office processes. They have no idea. There's a lot of what we do, unfortunately, is very very manual in nature. Like somebody mentioned macros. So it feels like a very age-old process which has to transform. So we're trying to increase the knowledge of what AI, how it can change. We want people to start thinking, and intent is for people to come up with ideas. Now, when they bring an idea, we have the functional leader there, and then we have some people who understand technology, just play like a transformation leader role, and they all discuss internally if something can be done about it. And then there is a tech group which understands technology really well. We empower them with certain tools that can help them go fast. So these are some of the initiatives we have been doing, and still midway, there's a lot to be done.
right.
Yeah.
I think
Probably, probably I'll add in something. So I remember even 5 years back when I was heading analytics for Honeywell, one of my responsibilities as analytics leader was to upskill 400 plus finance analysts into statistics, AI, ML. That was a task that I had along with my other responsibilities. And that was more of a push agenda for me. With AI, like someone said, it's no longer industry driven or tech driven. It has come in from the consumer. And you already have a buy-in from your senior stakeholders, and you have a natural inclination from your lower end of your organization to learn and ensure they are not left behind in the curve.
Right.
One critical aspect is we have interest on both sides, which makes a two-edged sword. I can't have all my analysts go through the training at the same time because there's limited number of seats in terms of cohorts that we run for any kind of a upskilling program.
Right.
That's one good thing I see. And also one other aspect that I see is more in terms of, like someone said, we do something on similar concept of Shark Tank. Like who comes up with the best idea and you pitch it to your senior stakeholders, and based on the blessing, you go ahead and you get to implement it.
Right.
So these things are catching up a lot. So it's a good on both sides, I would say. Only thing we'll have to say is, like someone said, eventually ROI is going to catch up. You are investing in people, you are investing in training, you are investing in infra. How is it going to give you in terms of ROI? That's one critical aspects, or a question that we'll have to see as to how best that can be taken care of.
Right, right. We'll go with this Ravi, then this Ravi, and then you. Yeah, thank you. And then some. Thank you.
This Ravi first then.
First, okay, no worries.
So the way I see it, in global capability centers, I think it has been riding waves.
I think his mic is not working. Is it?
Is it audible now?
Yeah, now
It was not working. So see, GCCs, I think they have been riding waves. It started with technology, data, machine learning, and now AI. With a new wave, I think we need to recalibrate and reassess from a people perspective. And from, I think we talked about the business problem. I think across in any kind of company for that matter, be different vertical, channel, digital, fraud for an example, CRM, I think we need to reassess what problem statements is actually the business is throwing back to us, which warrants kind of some sort of automation where Gen AI could be used. I think that's where I think leadership would play a very key role. I mean, for them to really understand that what exactly is the area where we need to solve for something.
So navigating.
Navigating, precisely.
Right.
And then coming back to the capability centers, I think, I'm sure many of us would agree, there are multiple verticals in GCCs and we end up solving same problem at the same time, right? So I think working in a very collaborative manner, I think people talked about various topics, that identifying cohorts, training people. I think this will all happen in batches. But the point
Maybe
is,
you have an AI app store, right? So no person actually then repeats the same thing.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. So for example, in many businesses, it requires maybe talking to customer, hyper personalization, and then content generation. I mean, it could be an app store hosted within the bank, or within a particular company, that hey, I could just record and reuse that capability and build on top of it rather than reinventing the wheel. I think strategic partnerships. I think someone touched upon the startups ecosystem would be very helpful rather than rebuilding from scratch.
Right.
Because from banks also, I think, as we've realized that collaboration with fintech is also very crucial rather than building like a fintech, right? So I think such collaboration is also going to be very, very crucial over here.
Right. Thank you. Thanks, Ravi. So
Yeah, I think from people perspective, as GCC transform from cost to value, people becomes most important ingredient, right? And that's people will help you bring the value. So we have looked at it, though we are a services company, but same will apply to you as well. Culture, definitely Avinash talked about it. I think they do much better job than us because I think they are a privately held company. That becomes much more important for them. And I think that is important. So while we give soft messages, but that's an excellent thing that we must do. All companies must do.
Yeah.
The second one I would say is knowledge, right? We have it's a mandatory training for everybody, irrespective of the role, grade in our company, to clear that, and that is important. And the third one would be we have a framework. Since again, we are a services company, we have a very good model of learning continuously, right? So we have created a framework for AI, Gen AI, where all the use cases that any employee comes up with for a customer or just an idea gets recorded, so that that knowledge is available to other people, right? And that has helped because our consultants have started thinking from a customer value outcome perspective. So that will become important as well.
Right.
And
so that you don't replicate. You don't start from scratch.
Yeah, you don't start from scratch.
Right. Great. Thank you. I think Rinder, then Soumya. Yes.
I'll make a couple of, I think, punchlines before we start, right?
Of course.
On the topic. So first one is, I think, so I'll talk about Pernod Ricard first. So Pernod Ricard, very lean organization. We have an objective to be 2x by 2030. So I think in terms of people, we are already short. So it's not about like, how do we fit someone somewhere. Second is, if everyone has been thinking about it, we have like generally the technology, which is like the machine. We have the processes, right, which are like very standardized and very kind of thought through. And then third is the link is the people, right? And amongst these three, I think the third one is the slowest. People is actually the one which is the slowest, right? Everything else is exponentially kind of speeding up on things, and then people is probably have to catch up. So in Pernod Ricard, here what we have, what we are trying and have been trying, first on the GPT, right? The GPT, so we have our own PR GPT, right? A lot is around, okay, I mean, if you go on the open sources, have like, using them, the data breaches and all that, like they keep on hanging in your, like, it's back of your mind all the time, right? So what we have done is we worked on this, so we have our own PR GPT, first of all, right? This is an important. And we've also trained almost everyone in the organization. Almost everyone, there are like sessions running almost every month on this, how do you prompt, right? How do you create, I mean, how do you interact with the GPT tool that we have? How do you interact, I mean, how do you use this Gen AI, right? So this is another one. Now, the specific problem that my team also has been solving, or trying to solve, is around the self-service, and that's where I started with. We run, I mean, these citizen analytics, self-service BI programs, because we know, I mean, we are the bottleneck, right? In the organization such big, the technology functions, solving everybody's problems, I think, I mean, it's, a lot of problems don't get solved and they get kind of deprioritized, et cetera, et cetera. We can't afford that. The business user has, if you ask them what's your priority, they say priority 1. Everybody says that, then you can't solve priority 1 for everyone, like limited bandwidth. So we invested a lot in this self-service citizen analytics. Now it's not run like everybody starts doing, starting to become developer on their own, like becoming data scientist day 1. We do it with a lot of governance, a lot of hand holding, right? So a lot of these go to those app stores, these products, so that people don't start kind of doing the same thing. So we're not solving the same problem again and again, right? And across geographies, right? The last thing around this is the solidification of the data structures, the data sets, the kind of the data underneath, right? Because the Excel lying on somebody's machine versus somebody else's machine versus somebody else's machine versus the data set available in the ERP versus available in the Salesforce application. I think they're like still very separated, right? Making sure that underlying, I think 80% of the problem is solved when we have these solid data hubs, and that's where we kind of pushing a lot, so that our these the AI or the Gen AI or all these machine learning, et cetera, works on that single source of truth, so everyone speaks the same language. Now, people are, I think, they're all kind of excited to get to this new wave. They see the benefit, and in general, organization is also, since we are very bullish, so we kind of are accommodating everyone to kind of take on these more value-added tasks than just kind of doing mundane tasks.
I think most of the things are already said, right? I'll just add a couple of things, right? I think as tech leaders, I think how do we manage this communication? So I started my career in database and data warehousing long back in 2003. And I also worked on Microsoft Access and Informatica and Cognos and all, right? So we did not have this much of a lot of distraction those days, right? When, let's say, 2015 for my previous organization, I was trying to create a cloud center of excellence. And suddenly every infra guy told me that everyone wants to move to cloud COE, right? And then you see that same thing happened, the database, data warehousing, and data lake, and all AI ML, right? Now, same thing almost happening now. Last year, we went to BITS Goa. So so I was giving that introductory speech and all, and after that, everyone came and everyone was asking only one question: Gen AI projects. Now, largely, if you look at our organization, you have large operations team and all. Yes, everyone needs to be aware of what Gen AI is, need to be trained on that, but probably I won't be able to give Gen AI projects for everyone, right? So that's fear of missing out. How do I, as a tech leader, I manage that communication? How do I communicate what's in it for them, but phase-wise, right? Otherwise, I lose a lot of talent there because there is a competition there, right? Everyone wants to get that pie. And so I think that's a cautionary message I just wanted to, kind of.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I'll just add to that. I think I kind of replicate kind of points which I was noting down for this problem statement. Look, I think with people being one of the most important aspect of any organization, thing which we have to manage with any such technology advancement, AI is now, cloud was about 5-7 years back. I think the kind of challenge which I've seen is to manage conflict. Conflict becomes very, very important because the leadership wants to start with telling the employees, the people, the ecosystem that they are on it. They have a strategy in place, or they are framing a strategy. We have a new leader announced. These are the kind of budgets which are getting allocated, stuff that happens. However, immediately after that, everybody in the organization, people who are, the organizations which are like 1,25,000 people, 2 lakh people, 2.5 lakh people, everybody starts expecting that something is going to be blessed upon him on this new technology advancement from any perspective. Customer, consumer.
Yeah, suddenly you find everybody wants to lead AI, right?
And then
you also like have a huge rush in the management and senior management saying, look, that is my territory, don't come anywhere inside this.
And then the leadership, the management, the departments, the capability centers, everybody starts, running helter-skelter to see, how this has to be adopted in the organization. So the conflict becomes very, very important. I think one thing which we did, I was working for another SI before I joined Cisco. And I was also leading the cloud business. I'll give a very small snippet on that. We created a separate mode 2 or a mode 3 strategy, which was a separate department, which was invested only on exploring these opportunities, understand the problem statement, what is there in the market from our capability perspective. Second, how many people can be transitioned from your current BAU organization to that? What is the framework? What is the methodology? What is the adoption curve? Start developing that. And next 8 months, 10 months, your rest of the organization will start coming back to you. When are you going to give it to us? So that conflict again comes in, but yes, that is a little more smoother way of adopting new things and managing this conflict to a certain extent.
Okay, perhaps, but then you may find that everybody wants to go to the new organization as well. But you raise a very good point, which is essentially exploit or explore, right? Because from a knowledge sake, maybe you can teach everybody, because what point you were making. But I'm not sure everybody can also work in everything which is latest and glitzy. And therefore, maybe as leaders to manage expectations, to say that, look, here are things that probably, are immediately impacting somebody, in which we are going to invest as an organization. And here are probably, a roadmap of learning that you will do, and perhaps your impact will come only after 12 months. So somebody came to me saying, why can't we do, all intercompany reconciliation doing Gen AI? And look, I'm an accountant, but I looked at them and told, it consumes so much of power. And do you want to use, your ERP for intercompany reconciliation, or you want to use Gen AI? I mean, okay, fine. I mean, like, in a very evolved world where everything is so cheap, maybe, but not now. Now is not the time. So, maybe some level of impact assessment on what is my role and how am I going to change with AI? Whether am I going to be assisting AI? Because that is also a thing. If you look at some of the surveys that are done, most people who are below 5 years prefer reporting to an AI than a real manager, because they feel that AI is having less bias. It's a written study.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a study. I can later on send you where is the study statistics from, but I forgot now. It's either Oxford or... Yeah, yeah. So, it has less bias, and then, like, maybe we need to make pockets to say, look, here is where the maximum impact is, and here is where maybe I will train people faster, because you don't have endless resources even on training, right? So you then need to provide for them to experiment.
I'll add.
And you're doing an internal readiness, and while you're doing that internal readiness, end of 8th month, when you're done with your trainings and capability enhancements, you see that the attrition in that particular department has reached to 40%.
Exactly.
In comparison to 13-14% in industry average, which is so then you have to again add up to your statements of problems, which
Yeah.
So I'll add to it. So it was all these problems. What we think there are two types of problems: good problems to solve and bad problems to solve. So these are good problems to solve. We took over it very straightforward, like what you said. We figured out a concept what is called silent hiring and silent resignation. So the silent resignation are people who have not upgraded themselves in last 3 years. Remember you said that how many of us did a course, and when was the last time we did something to ourselves?
Right.
So we figured out the people who have silently resigned because they have not upskilled themselves and figured out. And then we said that how to change. So you have to do silent hiring. And then silent hiring was a plan through which they will upgrade themselves. Then comes the role of the partner, saying that how would you move out so much of the workforce out of their day job to do the learning, which is where we came up and partnered with Coursera. And we said, you run a program for us. We will commit you 10 hours of learning, but you have to track them, you have to take their tests, you have to bring them up to speed, saying that you are silently hiring. People who are coming out of that funnel for silently hiring, and it's a long-term plan. It's not 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks hiring. It's a plan that is for 6 to 8 months. And then you become a future fit silent hiring candidate. Then you become employable in the area that you are looking forward to go forward. most people could do certification, but if you figure out something long term for them, if I ask anybody to do an MTech right now or anything like right now, they will probably live up or give up in the half the way. So you start solving for the problems that are there, saying that people have done 1 week of course and now they want to solve some problems that are there. Solving problems is also good. Mass scale, we work with Hacker Earth, we work with other agencies to organize hackathons for us, so that cases comes directly to us. So 180 use cases came up. How many of them can be prioritized? He said prioritization problem. So how many of them can be prioritized? So now it becomes a hub and spoke model. If you have a central team, you will always do prioritization. If you have a spoke model, you will never require prioritization. So those are the good problems to solve, and how you start solving them sets up the tempo and operating model for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, so I just want to quickly add to that point. I think what Jasmeet is saying and probably what Abhinav also said goes back to the hype point that I was bringing in. So I think the senior leaders have to deal with the hype by being very clear about what needs to prioritize and is worth solving. And then while we do internal readiness and all of that, we also have to set the right context with our people that this is your plan. If you are investing in you, then this is what we expect out of you, and this is realistically the plan. And I think what Varun said, I kind of resonate with that also, in the sense that we don't have to force people. Yeah, there is definitely FOMO. If you enter a room in any office and say, how many of you want to be trained on AI? I'll be surprised if even a single hand is not up there. But truly, are they into it, or are they just there in in the wake of FOMO? Is left to be resolved. So I think that's where doing AI training or upskilling in the context of their jobs, be it in the field of marketing, client experience, operations, supply, whatever it is. Here is a problem that you're solving right now. This is the current state. This is probably the future state. And this is the, if not a very well laid out, at least a rough roadmap. That, okay, this is not a 12 months plan. This is a 24 months plan. This is a 36 months plan, whatever it is. But we are being honest with that context is very important. Otherwise, upskilling, and especially because we are talking about talent, so upskilling on AI becomes or continues to be a little transactional at the moment. That, I just want to get a certification and get some likes and comments on LinkedIn, more than anything else. Yeah. And then the last thing is, which is a point I wanted to bring in, is as we train our people and our systems on AI, I think let's not take our eyes away from empathy, because a lot of the businesses work with empathy in terms of the final outcome. So while we train people on using the new systems, code assist, prompt engineering, but they also need to be trained on what will their new role will be once they learn to work with these systems. Because very soon, again, even that will become a hype cycle. That, okay, I've learned this, now what? Now I've learned prompt engineering, but to what end? What do I do? So that's where they bring that empathy in terms of adding value, which an AI system cannot generate. So I think that empathy part is also needs to be trained and embedded.
Yeah, a couple of things I just wanted to chip in here. I think a lot has been spoken. A couple of pieces I thought that should be brought on table. I think tying it back to the impact on GCC, I think there is a lot that we'll see how the training is going to get different now, because you will see that perhaps you don't need the technical coding trainings and stuff now. It's not required, right? Because people will figure out themselves with the hybrid way of working with millennials and Gen Zs, right? So that's one impact that we'll see. That's something which is very evident. The other one, which is also very important here, that when you are actually talking about training and upskilling, and as Gen Z is going to kind of bring in kind of tools and techniques which will make things easier, it's also the responsibility of the management to help people to upskill. It's not everyone's cup of tea. It's well understood. Not everyone perhaps will go above the threshold. But I think there is also a angle of responsibility from a, given that all of us are here are leaders. I think that angle is something which has to be recognized, that it's also accountability and responsibility to provide that platform, right? So
stewardship.
Correct.
Right?
That is something which we should not miss out.
Right. Okay, fantastic. So we have about a minute. Okay, by time. We started 5 minutes late. if all of you are up for it, we can make it 6 minutes. So that then we get till 3:15. So the only thing, I mean, I know each of you are dying to figure out about ROI. I think the components, at least from, let's say, what we are seeing in the market, right? I think the first component that we look at is what is the value, or, you know, what am I actually trying to do? Am I reducing cost or am I increasing value for customer? And then I'm then going to actually look at what are the different components within that. So for example, if there are people involved, then are you going to take people's time? And if, for example, you're prepping data, are you going to take data preparation time? Because you're not also going to only just generally reap the benefits of Gen AI, right? You have things which are embedded, you then have things where you have to use maybe RAG, or you have multiple sets of maybe efforts going in and even cleaning up the data. So setting up a mechanism like a project base to say, you know, what are all the elements of cost, and the most important, of course, obscure thing is the whole tokenization bit, right? You don't know whether what are you getting charged for and why, and whether, you know, which vector of maybe, I don't know, half words. People say, look, Anthropic is better, maybe that is slightly better than this, at least looking at what is the pricing per token. Maybe OpenAI token is not very clear, but overall from the market, I can tell you that nobody's figured it out. Nobody is actually completely fully only on Gen AI. Even, for example, you know, if any of us are saying that, look, we have large amounts of proliferation, it could be in a specific use case, perhaps like, you know, maybe looking at even merchandising, or looking at recruitment, or looking at maybe marketing or things like that. But no one has actually completely done everything in Gen AI because the cost is prohibitive. At least that's what I'm seeing in the market.
Nor will they, because it kind of goes back to the main point that you don't really need Gen AI for everything, right? Like there will be, you know, problems that you don't need it for, right? So that's also going to happen. That's eventually you're going to come to that point where, you know, people may not use it. Until that time, something else cooler in the market will come out, and then everyone will say, I mean, we'll be sitting here a year after this saying, oh, look, now let's talk about this new thing that's come and taken over the market as well.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not suggesting that everybody should do that, but what I'm trying to tell is that still I'm not seeing that generally projects, when large organization assign, let's say, changing something, and they will assign a big value of a budget, I'm not seeing like 20 out of, like, let's say 40 organizations adopting Gen AI like a project base where they're going to proliferate, right? So what is happening is they are doing very core experiments, and they are prototyping that experiment to a very specific use case, and then watching the cost. A lot of people are presently watching the cost, especially infra, Soumya. I mean, I'm sure you and your kind would become the next controllers, right? Like from a point of view of saying, what will I use this for and what will I not use this for? So that's about what I had on cost. I don't know if we have enough time from everybody, but very welcome to kind of listen to a couple of views, and then I had one fun exercise to close the whole thing with. Yeah.
Probably I'll add in one thing. Jay probably said in the first session we had itself, just because you have a new hammer, don't go finding nails.
Yeah.
Because not everything is a Gen AI problem. There are a lot of other ways wherein other problems can be solved. If you are conscious of that, use the right use cases. Given Gen AI doesn't come cheap, it's a lot of costs involved. Use it wisely. That's how I believe all organizations have been going after. Few of them are on the hype cycle wherein they think everything can be solved by Gen AI, which I don't believe so. But few organizations which have been in that experimentation stage or in the POC stages for, let's say, the last 1.5 to 2 years, they have realized, hey, look, there are better ways of doing things, and let's use Gen AI for the cases that it's supposed to be used. I think a lot of them have come to that realization already.
Right. Thank you. Anything else?
One quick learning I've had, and I mentioned that in the initial introduction. we've seen more value in using generative AI with our existing processes rather than using standalone generative AI use cases. So there you have something which is working, it's helping improve the efficiency and productivity of that. So it adds on to the additional ROI. It's also justifiable much more than starting as a standalone and then you don't know how it will pan out.
Right, fair point.
One of the one of the use cases that I distinctly remember about 5 or 6 years back in the marketing space is this product recommendation algorithms, right? I think in those days, even before Gen AI was such a thing, there is this technique called deep learning technique, right? So which is maybe an advanced version of your machine learning technique. When deep learning was the thing, a lot of data analysts wanted to, it's like a hammer looking for a nail, right? Okay, can I solve it here? Can I solve it here? Can I solve it there? So we had a number of prototypes and we managed to find a compelling use case when it comes to product recommendation, especially for retailers, because you've got millions of customers, hundreds of thousands of products, hundreds of stores. If you really need to optimize that to figure out what are the 10 products that I need to offer that are relevant to you for your next purchase, that's where that use case comes in. I think I completely agree with, it's very important to have these 1,000 flowers bloom. You can't really kill the spirit of innovation. If people are enthusiastic about it, give them space in a sandbox kind of an environment with the data, let them play with it. You can't kill the innovation. But when it comes to using your words, when the prototype is identified, then when it comes to productization or implementing it in production, you need to really figure out what is the cost versus benefit trade-off, right? I've seen practically, if you do predictive AI well, you already raise a bar.
Yeah.
If you do predictive AI with the data that is available to you and a third-party data, you already raise a bar. Then challenge Gen AI to go beyond that, right? If you do a poor job of predictive AI and try to bring in Gen AI, that's not really the benefit of
Because
Gen AI. You've got fundamentals.
Basic data you don't have.
Exactly. It doesn't cost much now with all the improvements happened with hyperscalers and everything. It doesn't cost much now to run a machine learning model, but they will ask for an arm and leg when you go with a Gen AI use case, right? So raise a bar and then challenge Gen AI to add value on top of that.
Of course. Thank you. Thanks. So I think we are drawing to a close, but I thought we'll do 2 minutes of fun since we've done too much of work till now. If you're all up for it. So I want you to think about either one quote or one future movie which you think is going to become reality in the next few years, okay, in our lifetimes, collective lifetimes or whatever. So, Subhashish, you want to go first?
The movie name is that, did you really write this poem?
Did you
really write this poem? That's the caption of the movie.
Name. Okay, because it could be AI writing the poem, is it? Okay. Okay.
It can be script, it can be
So
anything.
you are going to a different level. I thought already existing movie and you have actually gone into a future, okay, I'm going to shoot a movie.
Script,
yeah, okay.
anything, poem, anything, story.
Okay, great.
At least from my end, I think one of the movies which really fascinated, which came like 10, 15 years back, was something called as Minority Report. I don't know how many of you have seen it.
Who will not know Tom Cruise doing all the fun
so
stuff?
with everything happening in the space of AI, I think we might get somewhere there wherein we'll all get predicted like, when will Avinash do the next crime, when will I do the next crime or something like that.
Okay.
I think we might get to that stage with the way things are progressing, but not immediately, somewhere down the line eventually.
Okay. Yes, Ravi? No, you should take Raghav's.
So I think all of us have used ChatGPT one way or the other. It's becoming a good companion. So it reminds me of movie Her, the way AI becomes a very good companion over time.
Which one?
Her.
Her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
That's a good spot.
I think not so much on the movie thing, but does everybody understand Hindi?
Yeah.
Urdu, Hindi, little bit. So this is something my mom's taught me from the time I'm a kid. There's this quote, खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से पूछे बोल तेरी रज़ा क्या है. So all I'm trying to say is, things will keep coming and going. Just you mentioned upskilling, learning yourself. Just keep skilling. Don't stop upskilling. And no matter what comes, you're going to be ready for the challenge.
Fantastic. Thanks.
So Hindi quote okay, right?
Anything is okay.
So everybody wants everything, right? So the quote is, "Kalpana karo, aapko zarur milega."
Okay.
Okay, so I was going to talk about Minority Report, but I think he already
told the
spoke.
damn movie,
So then the next movie, for the fun part that comes to my mind, is actually an AI version of our lives, similar to Harry Potter, where you just say a spell and it gets done.
There it gets
you
done,
get transported, you get flown, magic happens,
Okay.
and I think I could imagine very well.
Okay.
that thing.
Yeah, of course. Anyone else? Yes?
It's not a movie or a quote. I think one of the books that I've read a couple of years back was this book called AI 2041 by this Chinese investor and entrepreneur called Kai-Fu Lee.
Yeah,
He has written a book called AI Superpowers some time back, and this was a follow-up to that. I think this was before ChatGPT. I think, of course, as the name says, it was released in 2021. And he was imagining a future like 20 years ahead of time. That's why the book is called AI 2041. A lot of interesting developments that he sees in AI in the future. And he provided all the science and tech inputs. And he partnered with a Chinese fiction writer. Right? So they both, I mean, all of these, every chapter is a story. And one of those stories that happens in Mumbai where like, people living in some environment and how an insurance company is using all encompassing data to underwrite and price and all of that, right? I think it was really, it reads like a fiction, but it is science fiction with infused by AI technologies that he sees somewhere in the future.
I didn't know about that book of his.
Yeah, it's good. It's good one to pick it up. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably add something from Steve Jobs, connecting the dots. So you can only connect the dots looking backwards. So be sure to create enough dots so that you can connect them backwards. Otherwise, if you have not experimented, if you have not gone that, you have only sat on the edge, then you will never be able to connect these dots.
Fantastic. Fantastic thought. Thank you. Yes, anyone else? No? No movies? Nothing else? Okay, great. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a great learning. Hope to stay in touch with all of you. Thank you so much. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.